It's 5:01 p.m. on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2004. I'm calling to order the Pflugerville City Council work session at 5 p.m. The mayor will be joining us a little bit late, so we're going to go a little bit out of order. We're going to start with our discussion regarding Explore Pflugerville Tourism Program. Flip, I believe this is you. Take it away.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, City Council, Honorable City Council, and our City Manager, Serena Breland. I'm here with you all tonight to discuss further Explore Pflugerville. Now, myself and the team over the past 4 to 5 months have aggressively been working to activate Pflugerville tourism in our city as fast as possible. So, reason being, as right now we're seeking our tourism-friendly designation from the governor's office, and this is recent data. As of 2022, travelers have been spending $92 billion in Texas, generating $187 billion in revenue and creating 1.2 million jobs. It's a pretty good stat there, and I think we want to get in on that action based on the conversations that y'all have been having since I started here on August 1st. Well, how do we do that? How do we activate tourism in Pflugerville? And I think as we studied that, I think there's 3 major things that we want to focus on. 1 is our rich history. 2 is the immense diversity that we have here as a city. And then now our current gem, which is our parks and trails. We're now known as the trail capital of Texas, and that's something that I think we can really heavy highlight as we move forward and expand on our tourism sector. Now, before I go on to introducing Explore Pflugerville, I want to kind of mention some brand recognition examples. These are, we all recognize Coca-Cola. We all recognize Chanel. I know my...
Do we all? Do we?
Yeah.
I like that she put her hand up behind it.
And, of course, Nike Air. There's different variations of it. There's different ways to showcase it. But the bottom line is you see the brand and you recognize immediately what it is. One of the things that we focus on in terms of tourism are 2 things. The word mark, and second is the abstract form, right? So kind of like you recognize McDonald's as the Golden Arches. McDonald's, not McDowell's.
I love that.
Those are the Golden Arcs.
That's great.
So, in studying what other cities are doing, I know that was a topic of discussion in our lunch and learn previously. They're completely different. Think of this as the tourism sector being the fun part of tourism, right? Because we're selling, and we got to be ahead above the competition. And what's the lure of interest to come and visit our city? El Paso, that's their city logo, the city of El Paso with the star. And then we have Visit El Paso, which has the cactus and I believe is a agave, excuse me. Mm-hmm. And then we have the city of Abilene, Texas, which I'll be there tomorrow for our Tourism Winter Conference. And then their logo for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which is Abilene. We have Frisco, the city logo, and then on the tourism side, we have the city that plays, Frisco. So as you can see, they're 2 completely different dynamics in terms of a brand. As we look at our current logo, this logo was created about 10 years ago. It's now due for a needed update. Give it some Botox, give it a facelift. It needs something to connect itself with what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of increased viewership and increased visitors here with the wonderful city of Pflugerville. We presented an iteration of a variation of what we were trying to accomplish in terms of giving it that punch and that connecting point to the diverse population that we have, not only here in Pflugerville, but also who we're trying to bring in to visit our parks, to visit our trails, to visit downtown, to spend some money here in Pflugerville. We want to connect to a pretty dynamic audience. So this is what we proposed on December 18, 2023. We wanted to present a brand that connects with the personality of Pflugerville, and used in various variations on the website, business cards, and so on and so forth. And we added the tagline where Central Texas unfolds, because we really want to connect. We want to stay above the competition in our neighbors, right? How do we combine what we have, the resources that we have available right now, to really bring forth and ignite tourism here in Pflugerville? We pulled the colors straight from, that's a picture, that's a picture, a local picture here of a Pflugerville sunset on Lake Pflugerville. That's where we pulled the colors from. That's where we wanted to connect. That's where we wanted to promote a nice, beautiful sunset to sell visitors to come and spend money and ultimately stay here in Pflugerville.
I've seen a darker orange, more burnt.
I was going to say
on the
that.
sunset.
Like as if it was burnt.
That looks like UT orange, though, right? Tennessee?
More. You know what that
More like
right?
Tennessee orange.
Yeah.
I'd say Tennessee.
University of Tennessee.
I don't even know Tennessee. Like I think UTSA. When I like that orange.
Okay.
The proposed color palette
or,
is
yeah, or
UTD.
yeah,
Yeah.
UTD or UT.
it's a different variation of an orange. It's not the burnt orange, and it's not
We're
the
messing with you.
Tennessee orange. It's a sunset orange, and again, we
It's
pulling the
wait a minute. Okay, counselor, this is specifically denoted as sunset orange.
Yes.
Interesting.
It is for us.
I mean,
Exhibit C, yeah.
okay.
It's actually
That's
part
the
of
Pantone.
it's a Pantone.
That's what he's
Is it-
saying.
is it
He's saying.
Pantone?
That's what
It
he's
is
saying. He's
Pantone?
saying. That's what he's saying. It's right there.
Um,
I'm gonna go to what's that place where you get paint at?
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Sherwin-Williams. Yeah, that's for it.
wanted to present kind of the different variations. This is the monochromatic, the white logo. These are actually local pictures that were taken recently in October, as we were going out and about and having conversations with different residents and taking pictures while we were enjoying also our Deutschenfest. This is something that, a concept of what a logo would look like if we're promoting Pflugerville, let's just say in Dallas, out in front of a coffee shop with a bus stop ad, something that we can accomplish to promote Pflugerville.
What's that building in that picture?
It's a mock-up, sir.
Okay, not a real building.
No, sir. The branded items that we can do with this variation of Explore Pflugerville, I will say, in our humble opinion as a communications and marketing, I think this is the best approach that we could take to really ignite tourism in Pflugerville and connect with the various people and audiences. However, there was discussion of trying a different variation of color scheme, and I wanted to present that to you. This is the second very proposed color palette, which is the green and the blue. This makes total sense. We connect with it, right? But here's the thing. We use blue and green on everything right now.
Yeah.
We
No,
use it on
I-
PCDC.
yeah.
We use it with the chamber.
It's fair.
It's beautiful. I like
Is
it.
on a coffee cup?
It's on a coffee cup. It's our city. It's our city branding. This is the safe approach for tourism, but I think we need to go with the bold approach to really invite people to come here.
Tell me.
I gotta say, the tagline puts me to sleep. Explore Pflugerville, could it be more generic?
What would you think?
Explore San Marcos, explore the underground, explore the overground, explore Africa, explore Dallas, explore, I mean, there's nothing about that that is unique at all. The Fun Texas, which we're giving Botox to or whatever,
Jim,
has the advantage of being interesting and unique. You know, explore blah 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 is done to death. I haven't Googled it yet, but I bet Jim is doing it right now.
Well, I was going to ask.
I bet
well, he
you
can't hear me.
explore fill in the blank has
Still.
8,000 examples.
All right.
Why do we want to go with this tagline?
All right. You done now? All right. I was going to ask Jim. Jim made some excellent comments at the last PCDC meeting about this, actually, about logos and slogans and everything. Do you remember your comments? I don't want to speak for you, so I wanted to just ask you if you want to go ahead and mention that about how this actually having a logo that actually talks about Pflugerville rather than bring in, we're not Austin, but we're close or some silliness like that. It talks about Austin, but it throws out, it doesn't even say anything about Pflugerville or
Yeah.
between a rock and a weird place.
Tells you where you are, not who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, so can you go back to the other cities, please, real quick? Because I'll tell you, I like the design. I love the tagline. Where Central Texas unfold, like I think that's a great tagline. So you see these.
Only two
What
of
do you
those don't
think?
suck.
So that's why I was about to ask you, what are your opinion of these?
4 of those are awful.
Well, okay. Remember, you're looking not at the city logo, but you're looking at the visit.
Well, yeah, you got
and
the
everything.
water tower
Yeah.
and you got the letterhead.
Yeah.
Well, are you the ones at the bottom? Abilene is the only one that doesn't blow chunks.
Okay.
But it doesn't say
This is
anything.
It doesn't say anything.
What
It's
that does though
identifying.
is
Yeah.
it gives you a distinctive visual. Frisco, the
buffalo?
city that plays.
Yeah, it's a
I'm sorry,
buffalo.
that is lamer than dog doo doo, and Frisco plays. Yeah, compare it to Arlington where they really play. I mean, that's lame. Visit El Paso. That's a verb. Visit El Paso. Visit Los Angeles. Visit St. Petersburg.
I like
So-
explore. Why not?
Again,
Yeah.
those are weak.
Yeah. I mean,
So clearly,
I mean-
clearly you're in a mood today.
I'm just,
I
how
I
often
can
do you
tell,
hear him this animated
you know,
about an opinion on something?
I think this is
my
the
God.
first time ever.
I know, I've never heard him. This,
Frisco, their city logo is really good looking and it's evocative and it says, okay, 1890 trains. That's what it says. It doesn't say anything else, but it's at least unique and you see that and it doesn't look just like the City of Abilene logo, which is nearly indistinguishable from the City of Arlington logo. I mean, this is weak sauce. I
So-
think we can do better.
So, my
Well,
two
this isn't
cents,
ours,
my 2 cents,
but-
seeing Caesar asked me, because I'm always quiet, and I'm glad you prompted me to speak.
You would have never said anything, right?
Never. I like the verb explore. It connotates motion, and the fact that it is a verb is significant as opposed to something static, in my ever so humble opinion. I think all these logos have relative merits. I'm not quite as judgmental on them. I think when you're looking at branding, and you can help me get a better understanding of this because I'm just an engineer. But when you're looking at branding, you're kind of presenting a holistic package. And so if we're presenting ourselves as, in this instance, the trail capital of Texas, and then nothing else in any of our branding references that, then we've missed the mark.
Yes.
You're looking for multiple points of convergence. And so if we're saying we're the trail capital of Texas, and then we're coming at you with explore Pflugerville, well, there's something there to go do, and these two things converge. Is that kind of where we're headed here?
There's some synergy, sir.
In
Howard,
the language, I'll agree, but the logo is sleepy. This looks like there's some trails here on this big PF, on this big P. And it looks like there's a trail. Oh, you could explore that. Let's go back to the earlier graphics, the Coca-Cola graphic and the other ones on there, because there's some things about these that really, really stand out.
Flip, is there any way for you to
But that
zoom in?
Coca-Cola and the Nike swoosh, both of those are distinctive and unique, and they convey motion, and they are like nothing else in their business. There is no logo for any soda that is anywhere near as good as the Coca-Cola logo. There is no logo for any shoe that is anywhere as good as the Nike logo. The Chanel logo is
Again,
boring as all hell.
I don't think I'm capable of making such definitive statements.
Look at that.
Look at any marketing
If you look at
textbook, they'll tell you the
if
same thing.
if you look at the Coke logo, it's words, and I'm sure when they first presented that to the board meeting 100 years ago, they're like, "Well, you're just saying the words in a fancy script font. There's nothing there, right?"
But it is much
And
more than that.
now it
because-
is, but that's 100 years of marketing on our brain pans that have made it more, so that when we look at it, we see something other than
A
the
check
words
mark?
Coca-Cola
Pepsi has
or a
been-
check mark, right? We see,
But Pepsi has
Michael
been
flying through the air every
Yeah.
time I look at that.
trying to get in our brain pans just as long, and they haven't been able to do it effectively because they don't have as good a sense of design. The Pepsi logo, compare the Pepsi logo to the Coca-Cola logo, and it's a world of difference.
It's a word too, except I don't think they used red. And that's
No,
maybe-
no,
It's
it's
red and blue and
It's
white.
red and
the,
blue.
the
Yeah.
And
Obama
it's,
logo.
you know,
It's-
there's a reason why Pepsi's number 2. And the logo has got a lot
taste
to
has
do
a
with
lot
it.
to do with it. But. Yeah. So
I get like what Jim is saying. I get the synergy. I understand the concern about the vernacular. I like it's telling you something to do in Pfluger. I'm just trying to think of. I mean, you said you definitely don't like visit. Um, um, you know other words for it. I like the logo. I like how it is. Like I mean,
Could you
it
take us
really
back
does
to the
match
logo?
well. Yeah, the way it and.
Look at how dynamic that old logo is.
But look at that, where Central Texas unfolds. I
What
like
does
that.
that mean to you?
To me,
Yes, sir.
it's like so this is where it begins.
So
This is where you start looking at
unfold.
Central Texas and you're
We're
looking
a
at difference up
textile
there as
town
well.
now?
It's like a map.
Yeah, like literally. And then remember we had
bed
this.
sheets.
I remember we had this whole conversation about who uses maps. Last time.
And we all do. and they're
Yeah,
just on
yeah,
our phone
yeah,
now.
yeah. But I like that. I like that.
We're
Oh,
owls.
okay. Because it's like this is the entryway to Central Texas, which is, I mean, because the thing that we have to have an understanding about is that our whole conversation about Central Texas has changed now. That we consider, Killeen as Central Texas as we are, and now that we're bringing San Antonio and New Braunfels into Central Texas, which is it's interesting. Like we always thought about it that way, right? We saw Waco, and I'm like, but it's changing with that. I think that's a very intriguing aspect. And then you have that bottom, so it's a barrier, and it unfolds and goes apart with that. I think that's interesting.
I guess my only concern, I mean, I don't mind it. I really like it, but how do I defend unfolds? Really? I mean, in what way? When somebody comes to me and says, "How does it unfold?" I really want to
Like
be
a
able
map.
to say,
What
No,
do we
ha-
hear from
It's a trail capital. I was going to ask. So, Flip, I think we're getting real deep in the weeds. I was wondering if we could take a moment and let you continue on, and then we can circle back while these ideas percolate in our own.
And it's not like you haven't done all the research and analysis on this. That we'd love to hear that.
Explore, definitely the name Explore Fluorville. If you just look at the, Explore Fluorville, just look
Joining
at
the
that.
fun.
The
That's unique.
Yeah, but that looks like something that I'd see from Six Flags in the '90s.
"Yeah, it's a fair, something for a fair."
You know what I mean? Like, and I like it. Like,
And
whenever.
how many visitors did Six Flags get in the 90s versus how many visitors do we get in Pflugerville?
That's a movie.
But it's the
Arcade.
'90s. You got to remember what catches on.
To your point, sir, this is why we're going into this exploratory phase, and this is why I've been listening to your conversations for the past 6 months. We're looking to expand from that. We're looking into tapping into our tourism sector. What do we have to sell right now in terms of right now, as of to we start promoting Pflugerville tomorrow in Abilene? What do we have to promote? We have an amazing trail system, right? That you can visit now. This is the right now. What I recommend in terms of exploration is that's why we explore Pflugerville. It leaves you open to different options, right? And we share those options with those values. Howard Schultz, former CEO of Starbucks, said if people believe they share the values with the company, they will stay loyal to the brand. We're creating the brand right now. This is the first step. This is the foundation as we start building on this, and we can grow from this. This is why I recommend this. Again, you have different options. We can go with the green. Still great. However, I feel like if we want to be bold, we want to go.
Yeah, no, I think
for
you've made your
something
point
that
about
connects.
having it be different from that. I don't necessarily mean it's being bold, but I think that it makes sense why you want to have a point of differentiation. What do we call our summer camp? Did we call it camp? Is it explore camp? Exploration camp? Was it? Is it fun camp? Is it fun camp? Okay, fun camp. So we don't. I mean, What other word would you use, David? If not for explore, and then Flip, if you could answer what Caesar said regarding unfolds. Yeah. So, David, what would you want instead of explore? What would you use?
I mean, if we're going to we're going to work on the trail. Run to Pflugerville.
In terms of answering your question, sir, where Central Texas unfolds, I feel opens it up to, that's what we need to focus. This is the baseline of selling it. Then we'll focus on a full throttle campaign that shares the maps, our trail system, our parks, right? Things that we can bring together. Where Central Texas unfolds, to Councilman Mateer's point, I feel it just adds that layer in terms of staying above the competition here in Central Texas. We remember we have neighbors that have started Bastrop around the corner, Georgetown. They have a solid foundation of tourism. We're still building it, and this is where Central Texas unfolds, kind of connects with the exploration of looking at, all right, what does Pflugerville have to offer? Let me go and check that out. Let me unfold that.
That is a terrible word. I'm sorry. Unfold is just awful.
More opinion than I've ever heard.
It's got to be short. It's got to be punchy. It's got to drive some kind of action. You've got to have an idea. Explore, at least, has an idea. Unfold is laundry. That is just awful. And when it comes to logo, I mean, a logo will make or break a brand. We have a really good P there in the corner. That's beautiful. It took a long time to come up with that. But there was a lot of thought about, the lake and the parks and the trails, kind of all putting that together, right? That's really well done. And you can refresh an old logo. I mean, Apple's logo was originally an apple with a bite out of it, all in a rainbow. They refreshed it, made it black and white. It's the same basic logo, but it's new. It's 21st century. They changed it up a little bit. The Coca-Cola logos have changed a little bit over time, but the fundamentals have stayed the same. Starbucks, you mentioned Starbucks a few minutes ago. They've got a killer logo, one of the best logos ever. The Golden Arches, McDonald's, is the best logo, hands down. There are no better logos anywhere in the world. But Coca-Cola and Apple come close. But what's the logo for Jiffy Lube?
It's an arrow.
Nobody knows and nobody
it's an arrow.
cares.
an arrow 'cause
Walmart
it's
is a
quick.
great company
They
with a
just give you
terrible
the answer.
logo. Target has a great logo. I mean,
Target.
everybody knows what the Target logo is, and it ties into the name of the company. I think we can do better.
I think if I would hear or see the logo, explore Pflugerville where Central Texas begins instead of using unfold begins, right? Like that has me interested into why is it here that we're saying where Central Texas begins? Because there's a lot of different cities, like Washington County, home. What does it say? Home of where democracy was born. Something along those lines. Like whenever I see it, whenever I'm on 290, I'm like, okay, why do they say that? So this has me interested. Like if you guys unfold, the dry cleaning thing's now going to be stuck in my head for the rest of my life. But where it begins, that has me interested. Why is it right here? Why right here? Why is this a breaker to where, wow, okay, this is where Central Texas begins? Why is that the case? What am I seeing here? What's different from that? And I think you're, just like you said, you're doing this for two purposes. One, because we need a refresh. Two, because there's valuable dollars out there right now that if we are able to get something in place, we're able to go ahead and help pitch for and help ultimately utilize for that. I mean, it's a question that this council has asked for years, and it's good. I mean, I know that people come here, say what you will, and this is why people get mad at BCDs or whatnot. People come here for the water park. People come here from all over to go in and water park for outdoor. I hear about it time and time again. I know people. Hey, I'm up here in your neck of the woods for that. Our it's a private school by Wells Points Park. Concordia.
Concordia?
People come up here to use the pole vaulting thing. I can't believe how many people actually utilize that area and talk about how, yo, yeah, you have one of the best pole vaulting places in Central Texas. Well, I'm like, what? Okay, that's interesting. Like, there are things that people come here for, and how do you expand on that for people to be cognizant of it? The restaurants. I think I told you all that story about how the Boring Company is still upset because they wish they were still here because of all the different variety of restaurants we have here. Like all the different cuisines available here, from Iranian food, Venezuelan, Puerto Rico. I mean, there's a variety of different things from there. I mean, there's a lot to do here, and it's, honestly, it's kind of the chambers whole deal. They're supposed to be, but you're not these businesses. But I think that it's an interesting concept of that. I like the logo after you explained about why it should be differentiated from the other things from there. I unfolds, like I said, now it's stuck in my head. So it's like, okay,
We can change the slogan.
Yeah,
The slogan's
yeah,
not the
slogan. But I like,
the
but I
meat
like,
to the bone is.
but I like
is
the
actual
concept of where Central Texas begins, because I would want to know, why is Pflugerville, or if I weren't from here, why is Pflugerville saying Central Texas begins here? What is it? What do they have here that makes it that way?
Why does
The
it-
thing that I do like about the logo is that we have the word Pflugerville there. I'm looking at the top 10 logos according to some random internet website. Of course, I love New York, number one, right? I Heart NY. But then every other logo listed on here is the name of the city. From Oslo to Melbourne to Paris to Amsterdam. Every one of these is a stylized name of the city. And so what that tells me is that I don't care so much about a logo like that P. That P doesn't tell me where it's from, right? The P, if I know Pflugerville and I'm familiar with the brand because it's on my letterhead and on my agendas and everything and on my water bottle, then oh yeah, that's Pflugerville. But to anyone that we're trying to advertise outside of our bubble, no one knows what the P is, right?
Right.
It works well in conjunction with something like the word Pflugerville. I think I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, what happens when you Google Pflugerville? Do you get any confusing entries? Do you get anything in Europe? Or no, you don't. There's one Pflugerville. And so in that regard, we are unique, and I think this particular logo, if you will, capitalizes very well on that uniqueness, combined with an action verb that says explore, that may be synonymous with Google Pflugerville. See what you can find out, right?
Maybe we should put Google Pflugerville.
Maybe
so
we
get away
should.
with it.
Maybe we should. I mean, that's in common usage now, right? We can
Yeah,
do that.
It's like Xerox.
Xerox Pflugerville?
I'm not 100% sold on the tagline. I think we need to talk with some Gen Y, Gen Zs, and figure out which words are in vogue there besides unfold or unfurled or wherever. But I like.
Explore
I
Pflugerville.
really do like Explore Pflugerville.
It ain't mid. That's what we
No.
should put right there as the tagline.
Well, and to your point about the trails, I just looked up the trailhead for the Chisholm Trail is south of San Antonio somewhere. If we were a city south of San Antonio, we could say
Where the west begins.
where the trails began or something like that, right? Because there would be meaning there. There would be a historical reference. So I don't think we can use the word begin in Central Texas. I don't think that connotates anything useful there.
Do we have any? I mean, just ask for my edification because I mean, it's a very interesting history. You know, Pflugerville, Round Rock, Taylor, and how it all began and its relationship with the Austin, even the late 1800s, early 1900s. Do we have any history that would help to Councilman McDonald's point? You know, connote for other people. Yeah, this is why we say that. This is what happened here. This is what began here. You know, from that. I do think that people look at Pflugerville differently than Austin. I think they look at it more akin to Round Rock and Georgetown, those areas. But I also think that things are just blending so much now that, you know, I don't know how much of a differentiation there is as it used to be, you know, those areas from that. Even I think about the suburbs around San Antonio and how they just bleed into San Antonio now. But but like I said, it makes me intrigued to learn more about it. But what is that? Yeah, what do we have to back that up? Hey, listen, Central Texas begins here. Outside of us saying, hey, Central Texas begins here.
So council, because we're ready to turn the lights on this thing. If we can settle on explore Pflugerville and the color scheme, and we can go back to the drawing board on the slogan. Would that be okay for you all?
You know what I'm talking
Not
about?
with me.
You're confused.
I mean, maybe everybody else is on board.
I need
with it,
four.
but I think it's terrible.
I like how Serena's like, I need
The
four.
thing that I like about Explore Pflugerville additionally is that
Is this
it works well for the pictures that you threw up. Every picture that I take on my little phone of whether it's the last delicious meal I had or the kids running crazy through the park or a soccer game, every picture that I can take, you can layer that little frame on there, and we can put a little Facebook frame up that allows anyone who does their cover photo or whatever to layer it with Explore Pflugerville on it.
So does everybody, I mean, are we in agreement on Explore Pflugerville outside of this color scheme?
I think with one exception.
Yeah, I like it, and I'll say this color scheme. I like how you called it out to the sunset. It does reminisce of a horizon.
It does.
Yeah,
Like when you see it, you're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
oh.
I mean
Like,
it's
yeah.
not just the sunset; it's the horizon.
Yeah.
It's Auburn.
Oh,
Whatever.
you're right. That is Auburn
It's
orange.
the University
That
of
is Auburn orange. But to what Doug was saying, I mean, I
which
like
is
that.
not the university we have around here, is it?
I know, but our
we're
university
trying not to get
sues
to
when you
a-
use that color.
Trademark fight with.
Yeah, we sue on that color, unfortunately.
So yes on the Explore, or
I think we're probably 6-1 on the Explorer.
6-1, yeah.
Yeah. Any argument to that? All right.
What other words did you look at besides explore Pflugerville?
Alright, that's fair.
The majority, sir, on the tourism side, the majority of convention and visitors bureaus use the visit Pflugerville, visit Bastrop,
Which is boring.
Visit Fort Worth.
Georgetown, visit Fort Worth, visit Brownsville. We took a different approach in terms of looking, again, not locking us in, because right now we're still building the visit, right?
Right.
They think right now we're more on the exploration side, and I think a lot of also cities, they just use their city, Pflugerville, or New York, or
I
Asheville,
love New
Asheville,
York.
North Carolina, they just use Asheville.
We could do an I Heart PF.
I've got that shirt.
Well, I put Pflugerville first.
The visit seems more, what's the word I'm looking for? Ephemeral.
Yeah. No,
Then
explore,
explore, right?
Yeah, I think explore is a
Explore, stay a
better
while.
word than visit.
Come
But
sit a spell.
Did you just say that? You remind me of the Beverly Hillbillies when you said that.
Explore is come do something, but I think we're well settled on Explore.
I think so.
I think
Okay,
we are.
So here it is, synonyms for it. Analyze, examine, probe, research, scrutinize, search, seek, test, try,
Come on.
all of the
scout,
above.
Scrutinize,
Yeah.
Scrutinize.
tour,
Put
travel,
that in a-
traverse, dig into, go into,
Dig
hunt,
into.
burrow, inspect, prospect, look
Can you
into,
dig it?
turn inside out.
That's
That's
it.
interesting.
how
Inquire
about
into.
find Pflugerville?
No, that's.
So I feel like that goes back
No!
to the earlier point, though. That's telling you where we are, not what to do.
Yeah, I like
I mean,
the
it
action
it
verb
feels like a
lot.
call to action, but it's still where are you,
But
not what are you.
It is taking.
We're something to find or we're
finding
something to
fluid
explore.
water.
Yeah, you can
Seek-
find us. You can find us between a rock and a
Seek
place.
fluid
Seek out fluid water.
That gets you here. It doesn't tell you what to do once you get here.
Yeah.
I'm really sold on explore.
Yeah.
I think it looks. I think that's really good.
I explore Mammoth Caverns,
Well, that's in Central Texas,
but they're not in Pflugerville.
which
No,
begins here.
Mammoth Cave is.
Which
Yeah,
we are
probably
the entryway for you to go ahead and go see the caverns.
We'll talk to the Parks and Recs department about organizing a
Yeah,
bus tour.
yeah, that's what we need to do.
Okay. What else do we have on this?
That's it.
All right.
You've had enough. Huh?
Just
No more slides. No more
Any
slides.
more-
To be fair, I mean, we've been on council with him for 4 years now.
I wanna make
That
sure
he's
that-
the most opinionated I've ever
Can you
heard
go to
of
the tag?
I've
Can you
never
go to the
heard of
tagline,
it.
please? Can you show the tagline one more time?
I just want to make sure that
Outside
I'm,
of one other time.
Council?
I just want to make sure that I heard that I didn't have 4 that supported where Central Texas unfolds. Is that correct? I wasn't
Yes.
able to,
I'm not sold on that.
okay, I kind of had, okay.
Where Central Texas begins?
Explore Pflugerville.
I like where Central Texas.
And I want to pause for just a moment. I do want us to do some research because I do know some other cities that use the word begins in theirs and making sure that, you've got Glen Rose that
Where
says,
Central
we
Texas
begin.
ends.
Ends and dies. No. So we do want to look at that, but I just want to make sure I wasn't missing that there's 4 that
So
support.
I personally, I'm going to be a nay on begins. I like unfolds because that unfolds connotes that you're coming here and seeing something. Begins say you're coming here on your way to somewhere else, and I want you to be here for here.
So let me
not
flip
send
it
you
around a
off.
little bit, and not that I know anything about marketing, but rather than where Central Texas unfolds, I'd flip the verbiage around, and maybe this is trite, but if we're talking about exploring, the bottom would say, discover Central Texas, right? I'd put the action verb again in front of it instead of after it, and try to drive and dig in deeper to that exploring part of it.
I like that word, discover. Why not discover Pflugerville instead of explore Pflugerville? That explore is a word you have to stop and think about.
Good.
Discover
That's what
is
we want.
not.
I mean, that's not.
I would argue the other way.
Yeah.
I think
Ask
explore.
a 4-year-old if they know what discover means and if they know what explore
Where
means.
is he going to grab a 4-year-old to ask this question?
So you're thinking,
I can ask
you're thinking
my-
I don't think we're marketing to 4-year-olds.
explore Central Texas.
So wait, okay. So thesaurus for what did we say? Unfolds, expand, extends, displays. I don't see out shake
No,
out
I
outreach.
think,
there, the
I
other.
think
I don't-
any
I don't- I don't
synonym there
see-
is
yeah.
gonna provide a different connotation.
Yeah,
I like the connotation of unfolds. Otherwise, I'd say scrap it. And
I
start
don't like
completely
begins.
over.
Unfurl,
What if Central
unravel.
Texas unfolds here?
Well,
So I want to make sure we don't move.
Yeah, let's make sure UT doesn't sue us. But I like it begin. Like, I mean, okay, you may not use begins, but that it starts here. Like right here is where you start to actually delve into this.
Originates.
Because remember, and I mean, I guess that goes back to what our retreat's about too, as well. Okay, Frisco made the whole point about their vision 20 years before before they even, they're like, listen, we're going to do this. So if we're talking about this unfolds, we're going to begin to build on, like, this is right now, we're going to build on this in 2044, where we look back and be like, wow, remember how the council began looking at this, and this is what they built because they said Central Texas unfolds here, and what did they do to go ahead and drive toward that? I like that. I like that whole concept right there. And I know you don't like begins. I know you don't like unfolds. I know you don't like unfolds. But it's going to start here. We're saying Central Texas starts here. What are we building toward?
Well, I
Start
also-
is a better word.
I
No,
original Central Texas.
so I think that when
Oh.
you refer to unfold, I mean,
Uniquely Central Texas. Sorry, go ahead.
When we refer to unfold, at least when, who was it that the folding clothes? Is that, was
Yeah,
that
that's
your,
what.
okay. I mean, you know, I guess because that's what we do at home. But I think also unfolds has more of a resounding message, not just to the community, but also to anybody or businesses, companies, corporations, uh, conferences that see unfolds. Okay, hey, I like that term. Why is it that they're using that? Maybe that's something we need to uncover.
That's the thing. Like that sticks out to you. It's like, oh, okay. Why are we using that? Tell me more about this whole Pflugerville place.
It's not trite.
That's what I think. We each have a story.
It doesn't invoke an argument from other cities that would say, "Oh, it starts here. It doesn't
Yeah,
start
that's
over
what I-
there. It
right.
starts here." You
Oh,
know,
it's
unfolds.
going. I mean, but that's what
we're,
we're also
leaving
calling.
it open to other possibilities.
We're also calling ourselves. I mean, you know.
Well, we can back Patrol Capital.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
back that with that.
But I think this is a good, solid product. I do. I get your complaints, but I like the product.
Right.
I do.
You might have more than one.
I don't know. You are y'all? What are y'all thinking?
I'm thinking it's time to get a laundromat.
Hold on. Oh, good lord.
I'm thinking we revisit the tagline.
This
But,
weekend,
What
but
do you
I'm not
think?
hearing an.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind talking about it some more this weekend.
Okay.
I'm not excited about it, but I'm not disappointed in it.
That'll give us time to kind of ponder.
I think my favorite response was Kim's out of everybody.
I didn't even say anything.
Exactly.
I will say this. It's okay. It just I haven't figured out the story that goes with it, so I'm not. It doesn't resonate with me just yet, and so I think that's what I'm waiting for. I don't. Yeah.
I don't hear four no's, but I don't hear four
Right.
excited.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm at.
I'm not sure I hear any excited.
And now that everyone's been talking about laundry, in the back of my head, I've got a hotel commercial running where
Motel 6.
people are coming in to explore Pflugerville and opening their suitcase and they're unfolding their clothes.
Because they're unfolding, because they're ready to go. Hey, listen. I'm staying here for a week. What's going to happen over here with that as well?
You'd be surprised.
Give us 2 weeks and we'll probably love it because it'll be stuck with us for so long. We'll be like, oh wait, but I thought you had unfolds on there.
Oh, David.
So could we move forward with the blue and the orange and explore Pflugerville
I'm sorry,
and
that's
come back?
sunset.
Sunset.
Clearly,
Yeah, what are you
clearly
I
that's sunset.
apologize.
Oh my goodness. Flip will get you
Sunset's
crazy.
yeah.
The PM color FXJ. I don't know.
Yeah, my shutterfly version.
Hey, can I get the hexadecimal?
Okay, we can move forward with some of that because we really want to move on this, and then we'll come back with and use tagline later. Fair?
Fair.
Okay, so what?
I like
Hey, so the shirts are waiting to be printed, so
I
we
mean,
need to decide here.
Brent,
They're at the laundromat.
They're
We
being
need ball
unfolded.
where your story unfolds. Yes.
I like unfold.
Thank you, council. Appreciate it.
Just bring the story. Bring the story. And great
Okay.
tie, by the way.
There you
Man, I thought it was. I thought it was a good
love
meeting when the
that.
attorney didn't speak.
Did you hear what he said? We're Central Texas Adventure.
The
Central
Central
Texas
Texas Adventure.
Texas
It's not the beginning, it's not the unfolding, it's
Okay,
it's the fun adventure.
All right.
moving on. Flipping back over to Unfold 2A, interviews of construction law firms for as-needed construction legal services and discussion. Who's unfolding this story?
I'll begin. Council, we're looking to bring on preferably probably two law firms, just as needed construction law firms when construction law issues come up that we need assistance on. I'd like to have all of our general construction agreements looked at. They haven't been looked at in a while. I'd like to have them looked at for purposes of getting us some consistency across the board with respect to our construction agreements. We'll need some folks to look at that. And then when we get into some of the more complicated construction issues that we have in the past with respect to some of our right-of-way construction issues and things of that nature, construction law is a very specialized area of the law, and we need somebody that we can have on board immediately. So if we need to go talk to them, we don't have to wait to come back to you and engage somebody. So I went out and talked to my colleagues, my peers. I came up with 3 law firms that were very well respected for your consideration. One of them has withdrawn. That is the Perker Abramson law firm. Mr. George Baldwin sent me an email this morning. But 2 of them are here. I believe Stephanie Cook with the Coconuts law firm, and Will Allensworth is here for your consideration. They're both of these law firms are well respected in the area of construction law, and it's where they practice. They are construction law firms.
Construction law only, right?
Yes.
Okay. Really? Okay.
And so I guess we'll start with Stephanie, if you want to.
And they're sitting next to each
So-
other, so I guess they have no litigation
Well,
between
it's
them.
much like municipal lawyers. It's a very small.
Have we, I guess, council, we've got a couple of attorneys on council. Do we have any other recommendations for firms, or are these the best?
Outside my wheelhouse.
I'm trying to think. Are we commenting publicly?
I mean, all I can say is we've got 2 before us, and the recommendation is to engage with 2.
I am.
Well, we can also.
I'm very comfortable and very high, and I hate to say this while she's sitting here, but Coconuts, they're phenomenal. They do a very, very good reputation in what they do and how they handle things. It's a great firm.
And the only reason I would say it's probably a good idea to have too is the odds of having a conflict of interest in this area is going to be
Yeah.
in my opinion pretty high because they're going to represent architects and engineers that folks on both sides, and so to the extent a conflict comes up, we would like to have a backup firm if necessary.
That may be a good question to ask them while we're all sitting here.
Yes.
Come on up. We actually work together a lot because we find ourselves conflicted, and so we have mutual relationships where the clients will call us, "Hey, by the way, what are we doing here? Do we need to have a friendly discussion? Are we going to be able to work it out?" So I think our firms work well together.
She
That's what-
sends me all the bad clients.
I think that is not true. I think we've decided that you could consider unwinds, where Central Texas unwinds, or where Central Texas gravitates.
Unwind.
I like that.
No, we got plenty of.
I do like
You're gonna
unwinds.
have like Chardonnay.
I do like unwinds.
I'm not saying anyone owns a wine
All
bar.
right, if that shows up, you don't get any money for
I
that.
already told Will I don't want any credit for it. I was like, you can't steal it though.
We
That's at the
workshopped it
senior
together.
partner rate.
We were talking about that.
I wrote it.
I would say it's 80% Stephanie, 20%.
So, I'm sorry, who owns the copyright to that idea?
I gotta get
You
it
do.
there.
You do.
Okay, I'm sorry. Who's who now?
I'm Stephanie Cook. I work with Coconuts Young.
I'm
And
Will Allensworth. I'm with Allensworth.
okay.
You're both based out of Austin, or where?
Yes, sir.
And I guess if you could tell me, how often do each of you, are you on the plaintiff side versus the defendant side?
Oh,
The
that's
table
a
on
that's
this,
a great question.
You go first.
It depends on who hires us first and if I file first.
Yeah.
My preference is always to be the first filing party. But we represent the owners, we represent the general contractors. We don't stray as much into the architects and engineers. That's usually what Allensworth does. And then we can do some subcontractors as well. So we represent all sides of it. And I think you mentioned a good thing is the conflicts. There are inevitably going to be some conflicts. And, the bid process is probably where I see your contracts predominantly coming in because all of our clients are probably going to want to do the work and bid on it. But barring that, once you make a determination as to who your contractor and your team is going to be, I could at least tell you pretty quickly, I can't be adverse to this particular party, but I can be adverse to that particular party. I looked on your
Well,
contract.
Stephanie, along those lines, and I'm sure you're all lawyers, so you've done your due diligence. You know this is a hot bench. So I'm sure you dug in a lot more than you would for other people in these things. I mean, do you know how many architects you actually represent as compared to actually construction firms and other aspects? I'm familiar with y'all's work, just of work at Chamberlain and at Graves. I mean, I've seen what you guys do, and I understand why these cases can be very Jerry Springer at times on things. But I think for us, for our importance is to better understand the possibility of an upcoming conflict on something right there as well, and to have that ratio. I'm guessing you don't necessarily keep track of that ratio purposely to make sure it's 50-50 or whatever it is, just whoever comes and finds you, but do you know that ratio?
I don't know the ratio offhand. I'd probably say it was 70% on the general contractor, subcontractor side, and then 30% on the
GCs?
owner.
Okay.
We'd be about 30 right now, 33. It changes a little bit. I wanted to answer your question about plaintiff defense side. We're probably 60 defense, 40 plaintiff, but construction disputes, most payment disputes involve counterclaims both ways. So everybody's representing a plaintiff and everybody's representing a defendant.
I appreciate that.
So do you ever win?
Yes. But what do
Only-
you define as win?
Only the lawyer.
Where you win, where we don't walk away and, you know, the defendant or the plaintiff gets millions of dollars on either side. I mean, we've been down that road too much where, you know, we've been told, okay, this is the best offer, and it may or may not have been, and in our mind, it usually is not.
I mean, the attorney always wins, right? But how often do your
Wait,
clients
wait.
win? How often do they persevere in their claims and are satisfied with the result?
But that's a different question, right?
No,
I mean,
You said satisfied with the result. You said satisfied with the result. So,
Winning is satisfaction.
yeah, that's
right?
different from winning. Because, I mean, most of the 92,
If I can win and be very
93% of all cases settle, right? And when you talk construction, because you're dealing with a bunch of remediation efforts, as you were talking about over here as well, because for some reason nobody keeps track of whatever the heck goes wrong when it comes to building these things. It's just the most insane thing is, but that's another story. I mean, I guess winning would be defined as just like you said, customer. They're satisfied
happy
with the
with the
settlement.
result?
Yeah, the settlement.
And you make a valid point, Councilmember Meyer. One of the important things about having someone on is that when we do get into situations and where it looks like there could be an issue, we want to make sure that prior to that occurred, we had someone on board so that we can contact them and say, we see this coming down the road. Help us through the guidepost to ensure we're complying with the contract, so that when and if we ever do get in a situation where we're in litigation, we have dotted our I's and crossed our T's on the front end, to ensure that there haven't been any mistakes. And having someone on board to help guide us through that is helpful.
How many cases have y'all had? Well, we had COVID. So let's just use the last year. In the last year, related construction defect or construction issues in Travis County.
I have a number of them pending in arbitration right now.
Okay, so how many have reached? So you said arbitration, so that's
Some of them are private arbitrations.
that's
and
right,
then for the other public ones, I've had one that resolved last year in October, multi-million-dollar dispute. It was up in Denton County, actually, but it was set for a jury trial, and it was resolved amicably. And the majority of my cases are resolved amicably without trial. However, occasionally I go to trial, and I have a winning success for that as well.
When was the last time you were at trial?
I had an arbitration that went, and I consider trials to be arbitrations
Okay,
as well.
so you're saying arbitration, which is
Which is different.
Different.
And so my last jury trial was for Texas Tech University 8 years ago.
okay. What about you?
Full verdict.
So we did, the last trial I've been to was January 2022. We had a 9-week bench trial, so not a jury trial.
Central Texas or where?
Corpus Christi.
Okay.
But it was done remotely, so it was
Yeah.
right when Omicron was kicking back up for COVID, so the judge talked to everyone into doing it remote. But it was 9 weeks, construction and design defect claim. We had the engineer, excuse me, in that case, and the city had sued a contractor had sued the city was chasing us my client for design defects, and so we took that for 9 weeks. Successful result for our client. It's on appeal right now.
So
The city lost.
Yeah.
The city did win against the contractor. The contractor lost against the city, and the city did not recover damages against the engineer.
So the mayor pro tem's point, though. Okay, those are trials. Motion for summary judgment. So MSJ's meetings that this is cool, but we rule by the letter of the law. We win. How many of those have you guys had in the last year here in Travis County?
Go ahead. I'm starting to think.
I had a motion for summary judgment. We did not win it. It was a related sovereign immunity issue, and that was last year. But the firm has had prevailed on sovereign immunity arguments in the last year, and those are often raised on a motion for summary judgment.
Interlocutory appeal or after the fact?
Interlocutory. You take them up every time. You should always take them up on interlocutory appeal.
It's because one of the things that is important to us is your experience with the Travis County bench, because obviously for us, a lot of our litigation is going to be in Travis County.
Right.
So we're trying to ascertain how much experience you have. with
So
the
our-
bench.
Our firm has a long-standing relationship because one of our partners was married to Judge Naranjo, and so we have
Who was Judge Naranjo?
Arlinda Naranjo was married to Jim Eubank, and Jim Eubank was with our firm, and she was your former Travis County first Latina judge, and so we have a very good relationship with the Travis County judges that we try not to exploit.
We're
What
only in
does
Austin
that
I'm
long
glad
mean?
you only tried.
It means if there are things that we need to do, there are obviously things that we participate in to ensure that we stay in the good graces of the Travis County judicial courts.
If you don't, counsel, if you don't, I'm going to ask a question that I haven't heard asked. Y'all have been focused on the litigation aspect, which I understand. But I'm really curious on the transactional side, negotiating these agreements, the ability to assist city staff and myself in ensuring that we've got a set of agreements across the board for different types of construction projects, either vertical or horizontal. What is your experience on the transactional side as far as putting these agreements in place, and then, if necessary, assisting in negotiating with the other parties on various aspects of those agreements if there's a disagreement as to what particular provisions or clauses should be in place?
40% of my current practice is contract negotiation, and you find that unique in construction law because I can do both litigation and contract negotiation. So that's in terms of drafting, negotiating, and putting together the top to bottom owner all the way down to subcontractor flow of the construction document.
0% of my practice is transactional. The firm sent the litigator, not the transactional lawyer. The transactional lawyer we're going to send up here is Matt Telly. He's got a young kid, so he couldn't make it. The firm is currently representing several municipalities on transactional matters. We represent the city of Kyle. They have a rather large road bond issue, and so we're doing all their solicitation, all their bid documents, construction contracts, obviously down the road, design contract down the road, but right now we're working on their solicitation procurement. The firm does transactional work, represents owners, architects, contractors, all of the above, sometimes subcontractors. We represent all of them in transaction, drafting the contracts, negotiating the contracts, getting them executed, and then assisting the client with how to administer the contracts after you enter into them, advising the client during the project. It's a full life cycle practice for construction. That once you get the dirt, we're here to help. We help you with the contracts and everything that happens. Hopefully no litigation, but hopefully we can get the project through the end. You never hear from lawyers again. That's what you want.
And typically, this has always been my experience, maybe you have to pay a little bit to assist with that process, but in the end, it's a lot cheaper than having to go to trial or go to arbitration.
Yeah, during construction projects, you're always going to have negotiations, and the biggest issue we see is people spend a lot of money and a lot of emotional energy into getting a really strong construction contract, but they don't follow it.
Right.
And if you don't follow it, the contract ends up not meaning much. A city can waive its entitlement to provisions of a contract like any other party, and that 9-week trial we had, that was a big issue. The city hadn't followed the contract, and so they had a great contract. I mean, it was a killer contract, and they could have beaten the contract over the head with it, but they didn't follow it during construction, and if you don't follow it during construction, the contractor convinced the judge that they'd waived all the provisions, and so it didn't mean anything. And so it's not enough, in our view, to just get good construction documents. You've got to stay focused on advising and understanding how to operate those during the construction project, during the design process, and in the dispute resolution, because those change orders are going to come, those issues with the contractor are going to show up. You just have to be ready to, what you do in the first 3 months of a project affects what you can get in the last 3 months of the project.
So let me ask you that. That's a good entry point. So you got COs, and you got a variety of different things, and COs are going to happen on a given project, right? What do you do in your advisement to cities or municipalities to make sure that you are being apprised of the COs that occur, to any other specific issues or concerns from there, to make sure that you're able to be in the best place to advise folks over there? Because one of the concerns always is to make sure that our staff has the availability of the expertise to make sure that, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do and work on that. Do you have a certain practice? Do you have a certain rubric that you follow? How do you make sure about that?
Yeah, we do a lot of outside general counsel practice for a lot of construction companies, a lot of owners, public owners. And so in general, that's on a call when you need us and we're here. And that's, we have a engagement with the client that just says we're functionally your inside counsel. So call us whenever, call with the issue, the phone's open, you ring us. Now, if it's a big project, say, client, I'm going to need you to let us know if a change order comes in of a dollar amount of X relative to the contract price. We just soon hear about it. And it doesn't need to be a billable event, but we need to hear about it so that if there's something coming at you that's a problem, we can talk about it before you do something that's going to get you in hot water later on this project. So it's, we just, at our firm, we just consider it part of our scope of being outside general counsel, and we put that in the engagement letter typically.
I was like, is that an engagement letter?
Yeah, so the engagement letter will have a specific scope, like representing on contract drafting, but we'll also put outside general counsel. We'll supplement that engagement letter with a scope that says assist with construction administration or construction operations or interpretation of contract during construction, something along those lines.
Stephanie's the same thing for you?
We do a little differently, and to give away a little bit of our trade secrets, we like to exactly.
Well, you already
start
said,
scribbling.
Judge Naranjo, we keep on the good side of that. So we're just going down the road today.
Yeah, well, don't give all the secrets away. We like to train the people who are going to be in your office that they understand what they're looking for, because we have found that if you get a cheat sheet for what are the trigger dates in your contract, the change orders, the time for responding, things like that, if you have that type of mechanism, it makes your team better staffed and able to understand how to administer their own contract. Obviously, you're available to call us anytime, but usually we give the free training so that your staff and your employees understand what they're looking for in a contract administration.
Yeah, that's what we do on our side, on the municipal side as well. I did have a question on your rates. Typically, I've seen a differentiation between transactional rates and litigation rates. These rates that y'all have are they?
They're straight rates.
They're straight rates
For us.
for y'all. How about you?
Yeah, for us, the lawyers who would be doing the transactional, if we're involved, are going to be people like Joe Basham, Matt Talley, Whitney Knight, and Eddie and Meredith. We've got them in the materials. So the rates are generally going to be based on experience at our firm, and so we've got transactional and litigation attorneys at pretty much every level.
Okay.
So the rates are, say, we don't differentiate on our rates from the litigation transaction.
Because it's based on the lawyer that's doing the work.
That's
Okay.
correct.
You guys answered my question before I could get it out. So I really was interested in what you were going to do to help us stay out of trouble on the front end. And I think you both had very good answers to that. Thank you.
That's what they're here for.
One of the unsatisfying things about being a litigator is that when we go out to get clients, they don't want us. We sell a service that nobody wants. So I'm very jealous of the transactional lawyers because they get to help people stay out of trouble, and they have happier clients as a result.
I think you did mention one thing about how do we judge success. We have repeat clients. We have clients who call us who have long-standing relationships with us because they understand the value of what we've done. And we try and provide them that information up front. As Will said, if we give you a good contract and you follow your contract, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to keep you out of trouble. And that's my goal, because no one likes litigation at the end of the day.
And so you have the same problem I have in my firm. I'm not a litigator, I'm a transactional lawyer, so I do everything I can to keep my clients out of litigation, which usually makes the litigators unhappy.
I do both. That's why I get to split a little bit more time. And it's always happier for clients on the transactional side than it is for litigation.
I think something that was said earlier is correct. The only way to measure success in this is, and this echoes what Stephanie said, is whether the clients are happy with the result. And so we didn't put it in our materials, but we certainly have some existing engagements with cities on both litigation and transactional. We'd be happy to share contacts of who we work with so that y'all can check our work and see if those clients have been happy with our services. And I can get those to Charles if that'll assist y'all, if that's something y'all are
So
interested
let me ask the corollary now. So what's an example of when a client wasn't happy, and what would lessons learned from whatever something was not success that you've actually incorporated in your practice moving forward?
we
don't need to know the client, just
Yeah.
example
I'll
situation.
speak in real big generalities. I had a client I worked with for many years, very close, and talked to them every week. And they were a great client, but I was solely working on their construction, didn't understand their business as well as I thought. And they ended up declaring bankruptcy, and a lot of the advice that I would have given them would have been very different had I known that. And this was several years ago, it was about 5 years ago. And so it's affected the way I approach the client. I used to kind of focus, I'm a construction lawyer, and I got to make sure I just know about construction, but getting to know more about what the client needs outside of just the construction is important, because none of these things can be looked at in isolation. Nothing is about just a construction dispute. There's something else involved. There's other interests that the client has, and understanding that is critical. You can't give good advice on one thing unless you understand everything.
I wouldn't disagree with what Will just said. I think understanding what your client wants and the needs, that's a communication, and I have a direct style in which I try and get to what is it that you're wanting from this? Are you wanting a successful outcome? Are you really wanting the deal done? What are the things that we can do and we can make on, and what are the things that we can't have a break or consideration on? Those are the types of things I think that harm a client relationship is a lack of communication with the client and lawyer.
Okay, so he gave an example. What's your example?
We had a client who was disappointed in a certain way that hadn't told me in the background that they really wanted to do a deal. And so I had gone in thinking they wanted to have all of their 12 deal points done, but they really wanted to keep the client relationship and they didn't really care what the deal terms were. That hadn't been communicated to me. And so I'm over here arguing for all these 12 different points that I think are salient and relevant to how they do their business. And they're like, I just wanted to keep the client relationship. Well, that's a completely different negotiation style. Completely different. So
So you learned moving forward. What's your end game?
my end game is to
No. Asking the client, what's your end game?
What do you want from
yeah,
here?
Yeah.
What is it that you want me to achieve? And I will let you know the best way I can think of getting it done.
And I think that's a good point, because I think that sometimes we'd like to be led to believe that we're going to come out on top and it's going to be the best for Pflugerville, and in effect it doesn't turn out that way. So that if either one of you paint the picture, hey, these are the possible potential outcomes, understanding that there may be a failure in one area or another for whatever reason, because we've been down that road many times already. And so I think forewarning us about the traps are important.
Yeah,
Stephanie,
managing clients' expectations is probably the most
Boy,
important
that
part of
is
our
the
job.
number one. We learned that. It's the top thing about practicing law. It's communication and expectations.
Right.
That's
It's so it doesn't do us any good to tell you you've got a great case if you don't. At some point, the case is going to get exposed. It doesn't matter how good the lawyer is, and us collecting a bunch of fees and dragging that out of you is going to end up being reputationally damaging to us long term. And so that's not of financial interest to us. It's certainly not in the interest of any
Well,
clients.
to both of your benefits is that you have two attorneys here that are always advising us to play the long game,
Stephanie is, or was, I guess, Terry Black's Barbecue, were they a client of yours,
They
or
were
just,
clients of mine.
yeah, somewhat disgruntled, it appears.
They are not disgruntled at my services. They were disgruntled at the services that were offered by a colleague of mine.
Gotcha.
But it's the firm.
It's now the firm.
I know you can't comment on it. I was sitting here for the last 3 minutes trying to figure out how to phrase the question.
That's something that I want to comment about. No, I think that we did a lot of good work for them while I was representing them.
Now, in fairness, she's at a big firm. You're not going to have a big firm that's not going to run us some claims. They get a lot of lawyers.
Oh, I get crap all the time.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday.
All right. Anything else, counsel? Any other questions?
So it sounds to me, and again, I hate to point in the litigation part, but setting up realistic expectations with your clients regarding the viability of the cases, it sounds to me as well that both y'all know the judiciary well enough to know the different idiosyncrasies that may occur with certain judges as compared to other judges on certain matters with that, which is definitely pertinent. And you try to, and from a staff standpoint, you try to make sure that you work with staff from the onset, making sure that the issues and concerns that could prop up in potential litigation are actually blunted by giving, availability on a day-to-day basis and opportunity to encourage, engage, and support their works to make sure they're confident in how they're handling a certain situation or managing a certain situation, so it doesn't ultimately result in litigation.
That would be a fair assessment.
Absolutely.
They say that 90% of diving accidents happen before you actually get into the water. Is that similar in the construction law, where 90% of the problems start before you actually start turning dirt? It's in making sure that the contract's right?
If your contract is right and you follow it, then you probably avoid 90% of the problems.
Yeah, and I think however y'all are going to be proceeding at somebody operating at City of Pflugerville level, you're going to be finding your contracts one way or the other. But I've got plenty of clients who 90% of their problems start before they've swung
And so it's maybe, yeah, the contract coupled with adhering to the processes articulated within the contract.
Absolutely. I have clients who still like to do work on a one-page work order, and it drives me insane. Like, you realize there's no teeth to this. Right, there's no teeth. I'm like, there's no teeth either way.
Yeah.
We have nothing to really talk about.
I would say that in major construction defect disputes, the ones that occupy rivers of time, every one of those cases has a very human component where it's a project manager got replaced, or there's just circumstances that came at the project that weren't really legal, they're just practical issues. So I think it is true to the extent that oftentimes these problems just come at these projects almost randomly. There are things that contracts can do to mitigate that, but at the end of the day, you have to have the right contractor. You have to trust the staff that they've put in front of you. You have to have the right design professional. The contracts don't make any difference if the people aren't any good. Most disputes that we see are projects where a contractor has replaced their project manager 2 or 3 times, or the architect has replaced their lead designer. That's where you run into problems. So certainly you want, not just on the legal side, you gotta be real focused on who you pick and who you're gonna get.
Which leads me to, which was going to be my final question if council was finished. Your experience in procurement law with respect to municipalities, because obviously we have very specialized procurement processes statutorily that we have to follow. And so that procurement process has a lot to say with who we choose as contractors. And so that was going to be, the last question I asked, your experience in procurement for municipalities.
Yeah, so we currently represent several cities, advising them on procurement processes. I've got a list here, and I was going to look at it. I was going to explore and unfold this folder. Since I don't do the transaction, they're not all going to be hits.
See, it's already catching on. That's good.
It's working.
I think it unwinds.
Exactly, unwind the process.
We're representing University Health Systems. They need some help on some very complicated procurement issues on private partnerships. There's a Texas statute that we're working on. City of San Angelo is a former client on those issues. City of Kyle, obviously, we're working ongoing. City of Tyler, City of Granbury, we're helping them with some wastewater treatment plants, which has some unique procurement statutes involved, and City of Denton. So we're around it. We know the procurement laws. We advise clients all the time on how to make sure they're compliant, advise staff on how to put together the solicitation docs and the bid docs, compliance with the PSPA, et cetera. So I think I don't, since I'm a litigator. They simply
Right,
want
but you
that.
have someone who
The
does
firm, we've got a person for that.
We have people.
We have people.
Well, I've got old man hearing. Will you tell me your last name again?
Allensworth? Yeah.
Allensworth.
Yeah.
And Stephanie?
We have a smaller procurement section. We do some work from the City of Houston, and we also do some federal procurement issues, but ours is not going to be as extensive as what Allensworth is going to be. We're a little bit stronger in the contract negotiation, and the litigation is going to be more of our specialties.
Okay.
One, I want to pick up on Councilman Matera's earlier question about the idiosyncrasies of the Travis County judiciary. For the non-lawyers up here, Travis County litigation has something that's called a rotating docket, which means that ordinarily in a lawsuit, you don't necessarily have the same judge all the way through the case. You might have 10 different hearings, and you might be in front of 6 different judges. How do you deal with those challenges?
Well, first of all, I research all the judges to make sure that I know which one is going to be the one I'm visiting that day, and sometimes it's rolling on the docket, and we have a good relationship with them beforehand to understand really the idiosyncrasies of each one of the judges and the styles that you have for each one of the judges. It's a predominantly female judiciary, and there's a lot of opportunities to intersect with them with one of the various groups for Travis County Williams lawyers. But you also can do, if you've got your spiel, I went down on a TRO in December and had an opportunity to intersect with the judge. If you've got your spiel and you know what your litigation is going to be, then you're prepared. And that's never affected. You don't necessarily tweak your game a whole lot, but you know the judge is well enough to understand what's going to hit with one of them rather than the others.
For us, it changes the way we put the motions together. You've got a limited attention span from a judge who hasn't lived the project or lived the litigation, and so summary judgment
Or read the brief.
And so they got to be shorter. You got to be tighter on your arguments. They got to be more practical. A summary judgment motion or a plea to the jurisdiction filed in Travis County is going to be very different than a plea to the jurisdiction I filed in Houston. There are ways to deal with it. If you had a particularly big piece of litigation, we often try to get specially set in Travis County so that we can develop a history with the judge. If I'm up there on a discovery dispute, get them specially set so that there are a judge throughout the case. If it's a large dispute, that'd be something we'd talk about as a strategy deal, just so you're not showing up to a new judge every time to talk about the history of the parties. A discovery dispute can last, which I don't like, but they can last a long time, and I'd rather not educate a new judge every time I get there because there's a history involved and it matters. Same with summary judgment practice. I mean, it's just depends on the size of the dispute. But given our judiciary, it's a challenge. That rotating docket is a huge issue, and you got to get to your point. And you got to make sure that judge understands your argument. And there's no guarantee they're going to internalize your brief by the time you're talking to them. They won't have had time to read it.
Did you re-up your term on the Facilities Commission?
I'm not that William Allensworth. That guy's a little bit older than me. He's
A different William. See, Google failed me that time. Man.
he's just recently been off. So he was at the firm when he took that position, and we had contracts that we were negotiating against the Texas Facility Commission, so we had to kick him out of the firm. He thought he was going to just show up at the office and collect his mail, and we said, "You can't do that. That's just not how it
That's
works."
hilarious.
But he's just gotten out. That's my father. He founded the firm in 1995.
Put him on one of those little ice floes. And
Yeah,
push.
we got a picture of him somewhere, maybe in a men's
Waiting.
restroom. Yeah, but no, he enjoyed his time at TFC. But we're opposite them, TFC on contracts, so that just was a conflict we couldn't deal with.
Yeah.
And you know TFC's building here in Pflugerville.
Yeah, good. Right.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's on the regular agenda. I don't think there's any need for anybody to stick around. But it's on unless council wants you. Unless council wants you to.
You always want to stick around. You know that.
But it's on the regular agenda. It's at
Yeah.
7 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item is executive session deliberation regarding real property pursuant to Chapter 551.072 of the Texas Government Code regarding and exploring the purchase, exchange, lease, and/or value of real property related to real estate proposal for downtown East. We will unfold to executive session. Executive session, nothing unfolded. We're adjourned.
Nothing else is unfolding.